Hello there. Welcome to another episode of COVID-19 Update here in Chatham-Kent, where we talk to different municipal officials, individuals, and organizations. They're doing some amazing things as we get through this very trying time in our community. We had another great issue here this past Monday on council about Victoria Ave. And there's a lot of great groups that have been passionate about this road. And one of the city councilors that was backing up this group was Michael Bondy, city councilor from Ward 6 in Chatham. Michael, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So I got to ask you, how are you and your family doing during this very interesting time in our community, province, and the whole world for that matter?
Well, to be honest, I think we're doing okay. It's been long and, you know, the weather's breaking, so that's nice. And as you may know, I have 5 children. So people say 5 kids locked up at home. But you know what? 5's probably easier than 1.
Yep.
Because they've got each other, so there's lots going on. Of course, we can't have anybody to our home because just us makes for 7. So we're kind of breaking the rules just alone, right? So yeah, they've held up pretty well, all in all. The older one's a little stir crazy. The younger one's not so bad. And I've got a little one who thinks she's died and gone to heaven because all her brothers and sisters are home every day. They're usually out of here, right? So she's like, everybody's home for dinner every night. She can't believe it.
Yeah.
So
I think everyone's you're saying stark crazy. You know, we've seen some interesting things about when the stores are opening up and people are shoulder to shoulder. Lots of things going on in our community, and it's definitely, you know, a whole new world, the COVID era that I like to say we're under.
Yes, it's a whole new world, and I'm afraid it's never going back to what we once were used to and really took for granted.
Absolutely.
Not lining up and washing your hands, and just the endless restrictions, not knowing if anything's going to happen, like all the cancellations between the summer camps. And that does affect us with the cancellation of soccer summer camps. My kids all lost their jobs because they work at the Y and the movie theater. Well, that's no good. They were the first ones to drop and the last ones to come back, right? But the government's filling everybody full of money and keeping us happy in the short term.
There you go. So it's funny you mentioned 2 months ago, because 2 months before this COVID pandemic hit, you had brought a motion to the floor about Victoria Ave, a beautiful street here. It's got some great heritage. Let's talk about a bit of the love of this street. That summarization of the report, to say the least, was something that needed to be done in the future. We're looking at 2022. I think that's where it is. As a representative of council, what were your prelim thoughts about the report?
Well, to start with, I'll say I do live on Victoria Avenue. So there's that. And I contacted the Integrity Commissioner, and there is no conflict of interest, just so I was, clear on that. Yeah, the initial report I thought was really, really bad. The first design of what to do on Victoria was changed the entire streetscape for the worse. It would have gotten rid of the sidewalks, which no sidewalks means no boulevard. A roundabout, which they called a traffic circle because it didn't meet the criteria for a roundabout. What other problems were there? The multi-purpose paths were situated beside the actual roadway. So you're really separated by nothing if you're walking down the road. And Victoria, for people that are familiar with it, is very heavily traveled by pedestrians, not so much by cyclists, but some, like any other road. Probably, well, Victoria, it would be a 40-to-1 pedestrians to cyclists in the warm weather. And in the cold weather, it's 100-to-0. So that design didn't go well. I didn't think it would. I'm surprised it got off the desk at City Hall. But so we had an initial public information center meeting. There was overwhelming objection to the plan. So what I did, representing my neighbors, is I brought a motion to council saying, go ahead with the infrastructure, because they do have to do the sewers and stuff. Not that they're a big problem currently, but it's time. It's been 100 years. So we should do that. So my motion was to do that, but leave the design of the street exactly the way it is. So don't cut down any trees. And again, for people not familiar with Victoria, the charm of Victoria is the trees.
Yes.
Big trees and a canopy year round. It's fantastic. So that kind of change would have an effect on the trees. The report said only 3 trees would be cut down, but I really don't think that would have ended up being the case with that kind of extensive excavation, root systems, etc. And all the boulevard trees would be in jeopardy. So that was my motion.
I think, we look at Chatham-Kent as a historic place. There are a lot of streets, we may even look at some of the blueprints that, some of this drainage hasn't even been done. There's so many streets. So of course, Victoria Ave, this street is one of the most unique little jewels of Chatham-Kent. And I know, you're saying you're a neighbor, you're so passionate about this Ave with the rest of the neighbors. How important is it to listen to the residents as well that live on this street to try and, again, maintain the heritage of this, but, there are some beautiful trees here. We have to worry about, a tree coming down. How important is it to try and retain all this beauty as best as we can?
Well, I think it's very important to do the best we can to retain the heritage nature of Victoria. The street's 200 years old, right? So there's actually cobblestone, because we get some pretty nice potholes here. And you can see the old cobblestone. They didn't take it out, right? So that dates it. That shows, how old it is. Do we have to have some, eye on safety? Of course, but, you trim trees, you don't cut them down because there's a weak limb. And is there a danger when you've got big trees of tree limbs falling down? Of course there is, but we're not going to cut down every big tree in the city just because, and really there's never, as far as I know, I know there's never been a fatality. I don't think there's ever been an injury of falling limbs, and after a big windstorm, yeah, there's a bunch of sticks and stuff on the ground, which I collect and burn in a wood stove, and that's fine. Thank you for that, Mother Nature, dear God. But yeah, it's never been an issue before. Nobody's ever talked about the safety of big trees on Victoria, and I've lived here nearly 20 years. And it's always just been, wow, the trees are great. And we've left it at that. So not until the redesign came in was it like, maybe those trees are a little on the dangerous side. Coincidentally, we're going to rip your street up and change it. So together with the neighbors, which formed an organization, Voices for Victoria. And again, if you've driven down Victoria in the last 2 or 3 months, you see all the signs and the ribbons on the trees. So there's been a very concerted effort to stop the plan. And so I just led the way because I'm a counselor, but it's not me, it's us.
Yeah, no, you kind of answered one of the questions there, and we'll get to that a little bit better about Voices for Victoria. It's a great group that band together because they have the passion for a street. I want to go down a little bit of a different path because from your counselor's point of view, budget time is going to be coming up in January 2021, and a couple of things have kind of hit our docket. One is this COVID-19 pandemic. Another is Erie Shore Drive. This whole Victoria Ave thing kind of plants under infrastructure moving forward, and as we know, a city needs to grow with infrastructure and maintain bringing people in. While we know the amount of money coming to budget season will be a bit more than normal, how do you think as a municipality we can try to take on this normal infrastructure project, but a couple of these other major infrastructure projects?
Well, that was part of basically my pitch to scale down Victoria, was dressing up Victoria would cost additionally, several million more dollars. So with the new pressures that we're going to have because of COVID, Erie Shore Drive, well, actually not even just Erie Shore Drive, the entire lakefront, Highway 3, etc. Those are very costly infrastructure needs. Those are needs. Yeah. This is a ask. So we don't need to do this. And we're going to have a lot of pressures anyway. And this is dressing up. It's dressing up Victoria, which people here don't want it anyway. So that was part of my pitch, is like, hey, we can save millions of dollars of doing something most people don't want. Granted, some people do support, multi-purpose trails, bike paths, if you will. But the percentage of people versus the percentage of people who opposed it on Victoria is overwhelming. I'm all for bike paths. I'm an avid cycler, not so much in my 50s, but when I was a little bit younger. But I've done triathlons and duathlons, etc. I've driven my bikes in the United States, so I'm no stranger to bicycles at all. But this is just the wrong spot. Victoria was just not the right spot for a multi-purpose trail. The way it was designed, there are options. Where we landed after Monday night's not the end of the world. It's probably better than where we started, but it's not over yet. Some on Victoria think, hey, there's maybe different ways we could also do this to be accommodating to bikes. But primarily the concern is that we didn't want to lose the sidewalks because it's a beautiful walk. And what makes it nice are the big boulevards. So you're very separated from the traffic. And that was going to be lost. And that would be part of the tragedy of doing it. Bike lanes in new developments, absolutely. Because they're planned, they're spaced appropriately, they fit. Victoria Avenue, not in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a decision that councillors and administrators have to make. You know, again, these roads and cities have historic value, so we're trying to find a happy medium. So it's definitely hard decisions that you guys all have to make. And you know, if we want to run for councillor, we would have to do the same thing. But you know, these are decisions that you guys make. So it's great what you guys are doing to make Chatham-Kent a better place. I want to kind of go back to Voices for Victoria because, you know, they've done a lot of great work. As you know, here's a quick couple of photos that I found on Facebook of some of the pictures of the trees with beautiful ribbons on there. Let's talk about some of the hard work that this group has done to, you know, make this a very important notice for our municipality.
Sure. Well, it was organized by a couple of residents on Victoria, Miss Van Veen, Mr. Laux was a part of it, Patty Joe, a lot of people, not me. Like, it wasn't me. I was approached by them. So the group was formed. After I made my motion, that's when they came to me, knowing that, you know, I'm sort of the voice on council. Well, I'm just a councillor. I just happen to live here. So what they did is they organized a meeting. This was pretty important and pretty impressive. Just after the initial public information center, so the municipal meeting, it didn't really go well. It wasn't very informative. Information was kind of misleading. People didn't know who to talk to. So there was a lot of discontent about that meeting. And the municipality, I've spoken to them and they've acknowledged that and said, you know, we've learned from it and we'll try and do things differently and better, you know, at upcoming PICs. So because of that, the Voices for Victoria organized on their own a community meeting at Blessed Sacrament Church on a Friday night. So I attended as a counselor and as a resident, and there was a lot of people there, and we basically discussed strategy on what can we do respectfully, because they've been very respectful. They're not chanting and they're not sending terrible emails, and I've been on the end of those terrible emails and phone calls, you know, many times on different things, but they weren't like that. They were just respectful of the street and of the design and of the decision that was going to be made. And they went as far as making signs and pins and T-shirts, ribbons around trees. The two churches, Holy Trinity Anglican Church and Blessed Sacrament Catholic Church, they got on board, put ribbons around their trees. So it's really been a great thing for the community because Victoria it's a big, busy street. So therefore, you don't really get to know your neighbors. It's not like a quiet subdivision where, hey, you get to know people just because it's busy. You know, the people across the street, you may not know their name because, you know, you've got trucks zooming by. So this really brought the community together. So we've really met our neighbors. So in the end, it's really been a great thing. Like, I didn't know, you know, these folks before this thing happened. So that's been great. And they're very, very passionate about Victoria, which is really nice to see. I've seen it before in different neighborhoods that have faced the same sort of challenges of big changes or no changes. Like, some people want things done rather than not want things done. So yeah, it's nice to see that. And it's been a good group. And yeah, it's been very nice to meet them all.
Yeah. This is something I brought up this question just because amongst with COVID-19 and, you know, in these past 2 months, people have been cooped up, but you never seen the passion from neighbors on the street more than anything. And it's been really awesome to see, you know, how they've all banded together and, you know, their voices have been heard. And I think it's great what Voices for Victoria have done, and everything that happened that Monday evening. It seems like it's most people are happy with the final decision. So again, thank you, Voices for Victoria, for doing all the hard work, and the counselors for all you guys of what you've been doing, and for your time, Michael. Is there anything else that you would like to add as we wrap up?
Well, yeah, I would like to thank the public. The public really came out and showed their support for the preservation of Victoria Avenue. Outside of the people on Victoria Avenue, people from all over the city. We've got emails from the East Coast, Toronto, London, Ontario, people that have grown up in Chatham that didn't live on Victoria, but expressed their concern. I saw a Save Victoria Avenue sign in Erio a couple of months ago, and on all sorts of different streets. So that's been great, and I'd like to thank everybody for their support. And one thing, Eric, when you say the final decision, that wasn't a final decision.
All right.
We're not giving it quite yet.
Yep.
But it's definitely a big improvement. But if you did watch Monday night, it was pretty animated, a little heated. So we landed somewhere on Monday night. I don't know if that's where it's going to stay. There's no rush. We've got a couple years. Frankly, we don't have any money to do this anyway, with what's going to happen. So we'll see where it lands in a year or so. But yeah, I'd like to thank everybody that showed their support, because they were far and wide, and it was very much appreciated by all the people on Victoria. And Victoria has a range. We're a real cross section of society. You got little Ontario cottages, great big homes. You got a guy like me that's got a little front yard. Then there's guys that have great big front yards, and we all came together. So it was really a nice feeling.
Yeah, nobody ever says, we're at that 15-year mark of CK Plan 2035. 2020, I've been calling as a write-up, but I hope, after all this is said and done, Ontario is opening up everything in phases, that us as Chatham-Kent can celebrate with a big block party for all the hardships we're enduring, because, this is a very dim light at the end of the tunnel, but we are banding as a community on every little project. So you got to thank everyone for everything that they're doing, including the Victoria Ave project here.
Yeah, and Chatham's very good at stuff like this. Like, we have our faults, but this city comes together. Like, look at the May 16th miracle. That's never happened anywhere. So for as much as we're not a perfect community, we definitely stick together and support each other when it's necessary. And we'll get through this COVID-19. Not easily, but it'll definitely be a good story for the grandkids,
Nope, all the best, and just keep pushing forward. And thanks again for your time there, Michael.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Have a good day. Thank you.